Welcome to Radiant Spirits Rising with your host, Heather Lena. Heather explores how natural healing can support your physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. She guides you on how to harness your inner power to overcome challenges, improve overall health, and strengthen your connection to your true self. Through grounding techniques, holistic remedies, and the transformative practice of energy balance, Heather offers practical insights to help you create harmony in mind, body, and spirit. So now, please welcome the host of Radiant Spirits Rising, Heather Lena.
Hey, everybody. It's Heather Lena. Welcome to Radiant Spirits Rising. I'm so happy to have you guys with me today. We are changing things up a little bit today after the show last week, which, by the way, remember to always be a dandelion, right? I was headed towards this show being the same and moving forward in that direction, but I got told by my spirit team that I needed to really do a show about messages across the veil. And so I decided to halt what I was doing and follow the guidance from my spiritual team, because I was being told that there were people watching me that could use these messages right now. And I'm here to help you. So we're going to do that. But before we start that, I would like to set an intention for the show today. I also got told that we need to set intentions as we start the show, which I think is a really, really good idea. So I'm going to ask everybody to close their eyes for me and know that I've already done this as I walk you through the process. But I want everybody to take a minute and just close their eyes. Take a deep breath in and out. Take a deep breath in again and out. One more time. Deep breath in and out. Then I want you to go and I want you to picture your heart space. You can look at it, you can feel it, you can sense it, however you can see it, feel it, hear it. But I want you to picture your heart space, and I want you to picture it lighting up in whatever color comes to you. And just let it glow for a minute and sit there and watch your heart space glow. And then I'm going to download us with the intention of having us be open to receiving new information and looking at this new information through your intuition and your heart, releasing belief systems that may be holding you back from accepting this information. So we're going to set that intention in your heart space. And then I want you to visualize the energy with that intention going through your heart space to your heart chakra, and then having that energy go up and down your spine to the other chakras. So it should go upward to your throat chakra, your third eye chakra, and your crown, which is on the top. And then it should leave your heart chakra and go down to your solar plexus, your sacral, and your root. And I just want you to feel that energy and that intention coming into you, and I want you to relax into that energy. Because some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about today is going to be a little off the mainstream. And so by doing this, what this allows us to do is relax and open ourselves up. So after you've done that, go ahead, take a couple of deep breaths, and when you're ready, open your eyes. Give you a minute or so. And really feel that intention. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So as I stated, my spirit team came to me and was like, you need to talk about messages from the veil. And this information comes from my spirit team. It comes from spirits that have approached my spirit team because I asked them to collect information that the spirits wanted to get out and bring it to me. And so that's what they've done. This also comes from information from readings that I have already done for people, and really what the basic information that I get out of 99.9% of my readings is what it does and what it can do for you. All right. So when I start a reading with someone, normally I will sit down with them and I'll say, "What is your question?" And they will immediately ask me, "Are they okay?" And at first they may say, "Well, I don't even know what I want to ask." But when you come to a reading, please write down questions that you want. Don't be afraid to ask the questions that you want to hear. Don't leave it to the reader to try to figure it out, because you may not get the answers that you want. And so that's a message that just literally popped into my head. So we're going to throw that in. Don't be afraid to ask the questions that you want to hear, because we already know that you're going to be asking us questions for them. They kind of expect those questions, and they want you to be open. So by you asking me what they want, you're really just still kind of like closing yourself off, saying, "Well, do they have a message for me? What is the message that you guys want to receive?" And that's high truth, because I'm about to cry. What is it that you want to know? Don't be afraid to ask the pointed questions in order to help you understand and heal. I'm telling you, I'm getting ready to cry. So in the first question, is my loved one okay? So when someone comes to me and says, "Are they okay?" What are they really asking? What they're really asking in an off way is, did they make it to heaven or did they go to hell? Even though they may not realize that's what they're asking, ultimately that's what they're asking. The real question is, and what really has to be looked at is, have they transitioned? Did they take their death door? So when someone comes to me, wants to do a reading, I will go up to the plane that I work off, which is the seventh plane, and I will ask Creator to let me speak to whoever it is. I will ask for a name. I may ask for a relationship, and I will have them come to me. So I will ask to speak to them. They come. And normally what I do is I have them come up to me, and then I will look at their aura. And by looking at their aura, I can tell whether or not they have transitioned or not, whether or not they have taken their death door. Okay. So if they are very not bright, then I will ask Creator, did they take their death door? Did they transition? If I get a no, then I'm going to spend a minute or so talking to them and getting them through the transition door, because all spirits have to go through the transition process. So once a person dies, once the spirit leaves the body, or the avatar, as I call it, they have 10 days before that death door shuts. This gives them time to finalize things, to be with the family in the funeral, whatever they want to do. But within 10 days, they have to enter that death door, or the death door shuts. And then they become what are called wayward spirits. And there are multiple reasons why someone may or may not take their death door. One of the most common ones is if someone dies suddenly and they don't want to leave. If someone has committed suicide, that's a big one. I transition a lot of spirits who had either an accident or committed suicide and were afraid to take their death door because they were afraid to go to hell. And this is where the intention starts. There is no heaven and there is no hell. When you go through a transition and you go through the death door, you return to the plane of existence that the spirits go to, and you return to your soul family, the vibration where you were. Okay. If you've worked on your vibration, that's great, but you do return to your soul family. And there are multiple soul families. But because there is such a fear about heaven and hell, I've even worked with people who are living, and we've had to go in and do work on their deceased loved one who had not transitioned because they did not feel they were worthy enough to go to heaven, and they were afraid to take that death door. So when you ask me if they're okay, I'm going to hear, yes, they are okay, because they are okay. But I'm really going to look and see if they have transitioned. If they haven't, then I'm going to ask you to hang on a minute, and I am going I'm going to work with them to go through that death door to transition. So know that they are okay. Know that there is no heaven, there is no hell. It is strictly, have they transitioned or not? And when you ask it that way, it's not nearly as scary, because if they haven't transitioned, I can just go up, open up the door, let them go through and go through their transition process. All spirits have to go through that. So then I also get asked, am I doing what they wanted? And this is extremely, extremely difficult, because what they wanted here, once they have transitioned, is not what they want now. So expectations that are given to us down here in this existence by those who leave us, when they get up there, the message I normally get is, yeah, I don't, it doesn't matter. But they have put so much expectations and pressure on the people that are still down here to try and do everything right that they wanted to, that again, it creates a lot of stress on the people down here. So the message for everybody is, really look at what you are telling people that you want. Because if you look at it from the perspective of, if you are dead, does it really matter? Probably not. The example I use is with my mother and her demands of being buried in Mesa. And that demand was extremely selfish. I'm just going to use that word, selfish. She was insistent that she was not going to be buried in Winslow. She was going to be buried next to her parents. We had to take her down to Mesa. And when my dad chose to bury her in Winslow, he did that because it was the best thing for him and us as the family. But he had guilt over that forever until he died, until we actually managed to release that. And so it's really, really important to not follow or not worry about things. If you have a question on whether or not they really want something done after they died, contact somebody for a reading. Find out for sure, because it's highly likely, and it happens in like 99.9% of the cases I read, that they really do not care that much anymore. They don't want to put that stress on you. They don't want to do that. What they understood down here and what their expectation was down here, once they get through the totally different than what is happening now. And that's important. It's important to know that you're allowed to make decisions after they've gone that are good for you, that you can live with, right? So when we come back, we're going to go more into depth about some of these other questions. We'll be right back.
Mike Zorek, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorek, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorek has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk on the BBM Global Network.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back to Radiant Spirits Rising with Heather Lena. Today, our theme is messages from across the veil. So we are covering some information that my spirit team has received and is wanting me to talk about today for those who are needing it. So originally at the beginning of the show, we talked a little bit about is the person okay? And we talked about transitioning and taking a death door and making sure that that actually happens. And then we were into, I want to know if what I'm doing is what they wanted. And I can tell you that the spirits tell me that they want you to make the best decision for yourself. Don't worry about what their expectations are, because what they were and what they are now tend to be different. Right? You are here to live your life and to grow. And really, that's what they want for you. They don't want you to be held back by the expectations that they gave to you before they left, because their expectations have now shifted, because their view is completely different than it was when they were down here in this existence. So don't beat yourself up about making a decision that would help you deal and process the grief and loss that you are feeling. And it's a reminder too for us to look and go, you know what? Do we really expect our family members to, and I'm just going to say this, hang on to an urn of ashes and have it sitting on their fireplace? I couldn't do that. Even though I work with spirits and I deal with spirits, I also know that you really need to take those ashes and you need to put them in a place and let them rest, not in your house. Now, some people would disagree with me on that, and I'm good with that. You can disagree with me. This is me talking. But if you're feeling like, if the expectation was that you are supposed to keep those ashes and you're not comfortable with that, then really work through the process of saying, you know what, I'm not comfortable with that, and that's okay, and this is how I need to handle that. Because really, that's what the spirits are wanting at this point. Once they have left, they want you to be able to process this and move forward. So think about that when you're setting up your own expectations for your family or your kids. What is it that you really, really expect from them? Or is it that you just want them to process this however they want and just give them the free rein to process it and do what they need to do however they do it? Which is what I'm hearing is the recommendation from the spirit team, from my spirit team and others too, because it helps people process grief. Because if you're trying to make sure that everything has been done accordingly to the way they want, you're hanging on to that grief and it's not allowing you to process it because you're stressed out about whether or not you're doing it right. Don't stress about doing it right. Stress about doing what you need to do to process this grief. And that is a message that has just come through. Are they with me? So I do get asked a lot of times, is the spirit with me? Is my grandmother with me? Is my mother with me? The answer to that question is yes. Yes, they are with you. yes, spirits can come and be with you from across the veil. So if there is a belief system that once the person dies and they go to heaven, that they are not able to come back here, many times people hold on to those spirits because they don't want them to leave. Or the spirit doesn't take the death door because they're afraid to leave because they won't be able to come back. And that's not true. That is not true at all. So in actuality, spirits can, once they transition, because they need to transition, and I'm getting that as a strong message today, spirits have to be able to transition, then they can come back at any time. They can send messages to you. They can attempt to communicate with you. They do see you. They do watch over you. All of that. Okay. But it's important to not hold on to the spirit. And this is where energy cutting comes in. So I grieved my mother and was energetically connected to my mother for 14 years. It was like I was married to her. I had pictures of her all over my house. I could not deal with the guilt of feeling like I hadn't done enough. I was a hot mess. And I do firmly believe that my breast cancer that I got in 2013 was partially due to that grief and my heart chakra being closed down, because grief will close down your chakra, especially your heart chakra. But once I had been energetically disconnected or cut from her, my grief just immediately shifted. It just shifted. It was like a whole totally different, I just went down a whole totally different road. I had let her go. I was no longer feeling her energy. And at this point, I'm able to hear her. I'm able to see her in dreams. I'm able to talk to her, which I wasn't able to do before I was cut. So if we hold on to the spirits, even though they go through the transition, we're still trying to hold on to them, which is not good for us and our health. So it's really important that we allow ourselves to let go. I recommend an energy cutting. It can be done in 30 minutes and you're going to feel 100% better. When I tell you the difference between my grieving process between my mother's death and my father's death was like 200% different, and my father's was 200% easier, I am not lying. And to say to you that I was much closer to my dad than I was to my mom is not a lie. It is not a lie. So what was the difference? The difference was I had learned about energetic disconnection. And as soon as he died, we went in 3 days after he died because he needed some time to transition from death into waiting for the funeral and the 10 days. After that 3 days and that cut was done, I could feel the cut. So I was no longer crying. I was no longer hysterical. I could focus on his funeral. I could pull the whole thing together. It was like somebody had flipped a light on, and I was like, okay, I am cut and I can focus. And my dealing with my dad's death has been so much easier than dealing with my mom's. And so I am an avid believer in come get those energy cords cut. Come separate yourself from them. They're not going anywhere. They're still going to be with you. They're still going to hear you. They're still going to send messages. It's just you're not feeling that energy, and it will help you move through the grief process. And that is a message that I'm hearing is from all the spirits that have come and talked to my team. Do they forgive me? That's another one. So how many times when someone dies do we feel like we didn't do enough, or you should have spent more time with them, or whatever the case may be? Or maybe it's, if I'd have been with them, the accident wouldn't have happened. If I'd have been with them, they didn't die. The truth is, all of us have a choice on when we die. Throughout our life, we are given death doors that open up for us that we can take if we want. I have been told by several spirits that I've worked with that when they died, they were shown like a movie of what their life would be like if they came back, if they didn't take the death door, because they had gotten either really injured or they had gotten really sick, and what their life would be like, what their process through was going to be. I was also told that they also got to see how the life would go somewhat, even though, we shift and change our life, what it would do for the loved ones, whether it would help their growth, whether it would help their opportunities, whether or not, whatever the case was. And several of these spirits chose to take this death door for whatever reason. There was nothing nobody could have done to stop them from taking that death door. That is high truth, because I'm about to cry. So don't have guilt about not doing enough, about not spending enough time with the person, about not being able to stop the death from happening, because ultimately, if you try to stop it, you can create karma between you and that person. If you are interfering with their life, their birthright, their growth, you can create karma, and you don't want that karma, right? So really think about the fact that we choose how we want to die, when we want to die, and how it's going to work. With my dad, he wanted to go through an extremely painful death process. That is what he wanted to do. I don't understand that. I didn't understand that, but that's what he chose to do. And the way the person chooses to go is also their choice. So when we got him into hospice, my dad was pretty much unresponsive, but I just kept being told that nothing was going to happen until my brother got there. And sure enough, as soon as my brother hit the doorknob, he hadn't even turned the doorknob, we heard him touch the doorknob on the house, and my dad's breathing changed. Why? Because he was waiting for my brother to get there, because it was important that my brother be there. Now, he chose to go while everybody was asleep, so nobody would actually sit there and watch him take his last breaths. But he chose how he was going to go. He chose when he was going to go, and it was 2:00 in the morning. And me and my brother made the conscious decision that we were not going to make the hospice nurse come at 2:00 in the morning, and we were not going to make the funeral home come at 2:00 in the morning. So we made the conscious decision that the body could sit there and wait till 8:00 when they can get here. And I was okay with that. And you know what? My dad was okay with that. So when we come back, we're going to continue the messages from across the veil. We'll see you shortly.
Dr. RC will share extraordinary resources and services that promote educational success, as well as making a difference in the lives of all social workers, as well as the lives of children, adolescents, and teens of today. She will have open discussions addressing many of the issues that we face about our youth, and how being employed in the uniquely skilled profession of social work for over 18 years has taught invaluable lessons through her personal experiences. She will also provide real-life facts, examples, and personal stories that will confirm that why serving as a child advocate is extremely beneficial when addressing the needs of the whole child. Listen live to Dare to Soar, Saturdays, 10 a.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network, and tune in radio as Dr. RC will provide thought-provoking information that will empower, encourage, and strengthen students, families, and communities across our nation. You can also visit her at soarwithkatie.com. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness: Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back to Radiant Spirits Rising with Heather Lena. Today we are talking about messages from across the veil. So before the break, we were talking about how you need to process your grief and process things that are being done based on how you can deal with it, not necessarily on the expectations of the person who has died. The other message that I'm getting very strongly is do not hang on to guilt and anger about the death. All right. They are good. They are safe. They're happy, and they want you to be happy and move forward. Don't hang on to anger or guilt. You don't need to be angry, and you definitely don't need to have guilt about what happened. Okay. Absolutely not. So let's talk about personal belongings for the spirit. A lot of times we feel like we have to hang on to everything that they treasured, and that is not the case. So once they have passed on, they are not attached to those things. And if they are attached to those things, there have been times where I've actually gone in and unattached a spirit from the physical belongings, aka my dad. Okay. My dad was a collector of all things, and he loved all of his things. And one thing that I struggled with that I have gotten through pretty much now is you don't have to hang on to everything. If you like it and it has sentimental value, go ahead and keep it, but don't hoard things. I just literally heard that out of my head. Don't hoard things. Take a couple of things that are sentimental to you and then let the rest go. Don't feel required to keep everything that the person had. Anything of value that they valued, don't feel that you have to keep it. If it doesn't call to you, then it's got a different place to go at this point. And I cannot tell you how important that is, to not have guilt about getting rid of stuff that you don't need, that you don't want, that you feel is like important to that person, but really it's not that important anymore. And I keep getting messages because I still have stuff of my dad's, and I just keep getting, just declutter, just get rid of it. It doesn't matter. Just get what you can out of it, declutter, and go on with your life. And I get that in readings a lot. So don't be afraid to release and let go. When you are releasing items that belong to them, you are also releasing them from you, which is what you need to do, because the message also was, do not hang on to them. Do not hook into them and hang on to them. There are belief systems that if a spirit crosses over, they can't be with you. They won't be with you anymore. And that is false. That is a very, very false belief. They can come. They will visit you. They will send you messages, but you need to not be attached to them. Again, you know, there is a belief system that we have to hang on to them, or we have to consistently pray for them, which is another way of hanging on to them to stop them from going into hell. I sat in a funeral one time, and the preacher was like, you know, we have to pray because we don't know if he's made it to heaven. There is no heaven. There is no hell. It is a transition door that sends the soul back to where it came from. And that's important. They have to transition. Do not hang on to them. Let them go. And that is a message that I'm just hearing resounding in my head right now. Spirits do send you messages. So I will have people ask me, are they near me? Are they sending me messages? Do they have a message for me? And the message usually is, number one, that they love you. Number two, that they're proud of you. And number three, they want you to grow and move forward with your life. I have not ever had a spirit tell me they're doing a horrible job and I wish they would stop doing that. You know why? Because the spirits understand that this is your life. This is what you came down to live and what you came down to experience. And they are not going to impede on that because they know they shouldn't and they can't impede on that. What they want for you is to move forward, grow yourself, move towards your divine timing, and be proud of yourself. because they're proud of you, because you're just kicking it right along, right? Even though they're not here, but they are around you, and they do send messages. They send messages all the time. But I always get, but they're not seeing them, or they're not hearing them, or they're not open to receiving them. And so part of what we did with the intention setting first was to kind of show you a way that you can go in and open up in order to receive messages. So what we did at the beginning, and if you just came in, you can go back and watch the recording and walk yourself through that process. But at the time that I set the intention, go in and actually ask your questions and see if you feel or hear or see a message. The more you open up, the more you're going to be able to understand what messages are being sent. You know, sometimes it's a song on the radio. So if I hear Prince playing on the radio, I know that my best friend is around me. If I hear the Judds, I know my mom is around me. And if the Judds are on the radio like 5 times a day, then I know I better start listening because there's something that I'm missing. Butterflies, I see a lot of butterflies. I was working on a grave site for a friend that was dirty and needed to be cleaned. And as I was doing that, a monarch butterfly flew by me. And I heard, thank you. And I said, you're welcome, right? So butterflies are a very good common sign. A sign special to them. So something that would have been special to the person, AKA the Judds. So my mom and I attended several Judds concerts together, though their songs remind me of her. So that's how it works. So is there a song, or is there something that they used to watch, used to see, used to feel, that you see and you think, man, mom would have really loved that? That's not a coincidence. It's a sign. So you really need to stop and look and think about that. Change from heaven. So change it from heaven. We've heard about pennies from heaven. I call it change from heaven because I don't get just pennies. So I get pennies, I get dimes, and I get quarters. So pennies for me is basically anybody but my mother. Dimes are from my mother, and quarters are from my mother and or maybe my dad, but mostly my mother. And they are yelling at me to pay attention because because obviously I'm not listening to what they're telling me. So if I find a quarter, I guess I better open up and start listening. If I find multiple quarters, I'm thinking I better really open up and listen because I'm obviously missing something very important. But look at this. Your spirits are around you. And angels and spirit guides cannot just come and help you. You have to ask for their help. So if you ask the person to give you a sign, if you watch for it, you're going to find that sign. It's going to happen, but you have to be open to it, right? If you have a spirit, and I'm just throw this out. So if you have a spirit come to you and say, I'm here to help you, and you haven't asked them for help, then it's probably not an angel spirit of light. And you can ask them 3 times if they are from the light. The 3rd time, they should not be able to lie to you. But unless you are specifically asking for the angels to come in and assist you, they are not going to. They are going to be by your side. They may send you positive messages. They may send you messages reaffirming. But until you specifically ask for their help, they are not going to just come in and help you. So keep that in mind. And that includes your spirits. If you're really wanting a message from them, be open to that. Ask for it. Ask for a sign. And I have people tell me, I asked for a sign and I got it. It was just kind of crazy. And it is. So remember, you can call in or you can type a comment to me if you have a question about a message from across the veil. At this point, I'm going to discuss a little bit how readings work, or how I do readings. So when you do an intuitive psychic medium reading from me, there are different ones that we can do. So we can do intuitive readings, which are psychic, spirit, or divine timing, right? So if you're wanting a reading from a loved one that is deceased, then that would be one of those. All readings can be done half hour or an hour. And all readings, when there is something that comes up that could be a block or something that might require some energy work done, I don't say to you, well, you'll have to come back for that. What I can do during that session, I will do, even though it was billed as a reading session, because many times your deceased family members or your deceased friends are sending you to me for a reason, to receive a message and to work on yourself. And so it's important that I go ahead and I help you through that process, right? I'm not going to just give you the reading and say, okay, you're going to have to come back, unless it's something so significant that I am like, this is going to take an hour to do just that, which can happen. Okay. It can happen, especially if we're dealing with generational curses, or things like that. I do oracle card readings as well. I do not do tarot. Tarot is like, it's like a set thing, and I am just not into that. So here's a set of oracle cards, one of my favorite ones to use. And if you are in front of me, I will have card decks in front of you, and I will say to you, pick 2 or 3 decks that call out to you. And if you're online, I'm going to show you these card decks, and I'm going to say pick 2 or 3 that call out to you. After you've picked 2 or 3, I'm going to have you take those card decks. I'm going to have you shuffle them. I'm going to have you sort them. And then I'm going to have you pick 2 or 3 cards from each deck that you chose. If you are online, of course, you can't pick the cards. I will see what falls out of the deck. Normally, the cards I need, as I'm shuffling and sorting, will fall out from the deck for you. What these readings are, when you have a reading done like oracle card, or if you have divine timing readings, not so much psychic or spirit, what happens is we do the reading, and as soon as you leave, things may change and will change, because based off that reading, you're going to make decisions to move forward or to make changes. And so that reading becomes null and void as soon as it's done and you have left the table, right? Because from the point that you have left that table, something may have shifted or it will shift. So I also, and I'll go back to other readings that I do in a minute, but some things that I will not do during a reading is I will not tell you the location of a person, place, or thing. All right. And part of that's because that's not what my abilities do. And so I'm not going to feed information if that's not what my abilities do. And I do not give specific time frames. And you know what? We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to finish this discussion, and it's going to be amazing. See you shortly.
Mike Zorik, a 3-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a 6-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2 thirds, and 2 fourths. He also won the Veterans Folk Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorik, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorik has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk on the BBM Global Network.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com. plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, Hope, and Support for Caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
I'm working on that, but it's not something that I am willing to do. I'm just not willing to do that. I don't give specific time frames. Even during my regular energy healing sessions, I may have somebody say to me, well, how soon can I expect that? I don't know. And that is because things shift, things change. And I've had people say to me, oh, I had a psychic reading once, and they told me that my soulmate was coming and that he would be here within a year, or she would be here within a year, or they would be here within a year. And nope, they weren't here. And it really does leave a bad taste in people's mouths. And really, honestly, that could be what the reader saw at the time. And then as soon as that person left, something shifted either on their end or on the other person's end that caused them to no longer either be compatible at the time or slow it down. And so I will not say to you or give you a specific time frame for things. I'm going to tell you, you do have a soulmate coming, because we all have soulmates out here, multiple actually. Be patient. And I may tell you, these are the things you need to work on, right? These are some of the things that you're going to need to work on or look for or whatever, but I am not going to give you a specific time frame. Another type of reading that I do is pendulum readings. So a pendulum, while it's likened to more of a witchcraft type tool, what it really is a tool that can communicate answers to you from the universe, God, source, creator, right? And so as part of my membership program, you get 2 questions a month to be answered from the pendulum. They do have to be yes or no, but that gives you an opportunity to really ask some questions that you want to know what the answers to are at that moment. And then you can move forward based on that information. The other thing I do is I've also started doing what I call pendulum animal readings. So what I do is I will take a picture of your animal, and then we will answer the questions that you have about the animal through the pendulum. And by doing that, we can get specific answers to questions you have. And in the process of that, the ones that I've done in the process of that, what happens is I get visuals of past lives with animals, because animals also have past lives. Animals also have trauma. And we're able to kind of work through and go through and figure out, if an animal is struggling a little bit, why that might be. And many times when I do one of these readings, somebody will say, well, that makes sense because their behavior is normally this, or their behavior is normally this. And I'm not going to ask you to give me any other information except for the questions that you want answered and a picture, and then we're going to move from there. So those are just a few of the readings that I do as part of my sessions. Can we put up the slideshow, please? We're going to hang on just a second. There we go. All right. So our affirmation of the week is today I choose to know there is no failure, just lessons. And this fits right along with our message of the day from Across the Veil, which was, don't be afraid to make a decision for yourself. Don't feel like you're a failure. Don't have guilt because of what you have or haven't done, what you could have done for the person that has now left us from this existence, right? There is no failure, just lessons. Just like there is no such thing as perfection. So when we begin to look at things and look at it as not as a failure, but just a lesson that we have had, it really allows us to open ourselves up and be more open to receiving messages, to looking at things differently, and loving ourselves just a little bit more, which is really important. Next slide. So all my services can be done online or in person. That includes Reiki. I can do distance Reiki as well. And distance Reiki is really, really powerful. It is so powerful, in fact, that I will not do an hour distance Reiki. I only do half an hour sessions for those because the energy that goes through those sessions is really, really, really awesome. And otherwise, most of my sessions can be booked half hour or an hour. I do offer a free consultation. So go to heatherlena.com to book your appointments. And you can also go to heatherlena.com to purchase those card decks that I've been showing you. They're awesome. And they are a great way to receive positive messages every day. Next slide. So I am offering a special for the week of January 28th through February 3rd. So if you type in code READING10 on heatherlena.com, when you go to checkout, you're going to want to do a 1-hour intuitive psychic reading. I'm going to give you 10% off. I want you to come see me, visit with me. Let's do a reading on you, no matter what kind it is, whether you want a combination of them all or whether you just have questions that you want answered about yourself or, a loved one that's gone. It does require an hour session to be booked. The coupon will not work for a half an hour, and it will not work for anything else but an intuitive psychic reading. So when you go to check out, it'll ask you for a promo code. You type in READING10. All appointments for this code must be booked in February, and a non-refundable deposit is required at the time of booking. So go to heatherlena.com. Next slide. So our membership program through January 31st is $25 a month. If you go sign up today, you do get 2 personal card pulls a month, a weekly card pull, and a weekly crystal card pull, a weekly message card, discounts, priority booking, and a supportive community. Next slide. Come join us on my membership. All right, so any questions you have or comments about the podcast today, send them to healingwithheatherlena@gmail.com. For any other inquiries to book services or purchase merchandise, go to heatherlena.com or contact@heatherlena.com. And you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at healingwithheather.com. All right, that's us for today. Thank you for joining me so much. I'm so excited to have gone over this subject with you, and I'm really feeling like the message has been received to those that need to be received it. So I look forward to talking to you guys next week. See you then. Bye.
This has been Radiant Spirits Rising with your host, Heather Lena. Tune in each week as we step into the world of natural healing and discover the radiant spirit within you. Tuesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network, powered by B2 Studios. Start your journey toward balance and renewal.